I believe it will not be.
Could be worse.
Oh, you need to record it and then to listen to the audio. Oh, yes.
Just gotta get the digital recorder.
We can do the pledge. Everybody wants to stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
I'm gonna push start once they're done reading this.
We only had 2 payroll checks, one for Eli Beam, $20.32, one for James Saltzman, $270.85.
Ready? Katie Blazek, Ahern, 732.14. Jeffrey Collins, 824.70. Wayne Robinson is $1,056.84. Joseph Burrs, $1,110.43. John Bryant is $979.26. Evan Kraus is $209.76. Pete Pelican is $768.01. Alyssa Sanuski is $435.66. Alexander Hall is $281.95. Timothy Labonte is $77.57. Katrina Tennant is $795.20. Trevor Whitby is $787.16. Kip Kaiser is $834.31. Thomas S. is $193.93. Katie Coppola is $195.30. Shayla Gherkin is $69.68. Mary Lyons Hall is $223.15. Janice Weirs is $838.28. Kiki Downs Wall is $729.65. Marley Beltry is $55.41. Joyce Kegel is $609.98. Karen Clement is $1,326.18. Heather Haggett is $300.04. Tamara Peak is $772.98. Daphne Wass is $843.96. Jason Gagnon is $272.95. Jean Gagnon is $55.41. Andrew Gray is $667.39. Kathy St. Hilaire is $22.16. Kendra Brackett is $581.29. Robert Gagnon is $358.66. Matt Kelly is $945.29. Kevin Nealand is $1,533.78. Christopher Spitaleri is $1,463.22. Josh Turner is $366.41. John Ventura is $1,469.50. Jeremy Worcester is $215.63. Jared Wright Ward is $1,016.36.
Total direct deposit, $24,019.58.
For a combined total of $24,310.75. Did have an ACH payment to Swayze School in the amount of $198,683.
Ready?
Yep.
Airgas, $67.50. Ben's Uniform, $663.50.
Yep.
Block 5 Technologies is $566.97. Kendra Brackett is $51.14. Brentwood, New Hampshire Common Capital is I can't even speak today. $403.41. Casella Waste Management Systems, $27,399.23. C&M Cleaning is $2,455.01. First Light is $170.30. And Frank's Repair Service is $101 even. Teresa Frank is $60 even. Great American Financial Services is $317.09. Joyce Kegel is $84.89. Lakes Region Fire Apparatus is $4,493.80. Intermunicipal is $4,998.19. Municipal Resources is $3,160 even. New England Vehicle Outfitters is $600 even. New Hampshire Associates of Assessing Officials is $20 even. NHTCA is $260. North of Boston Media Group is $361.47. Patrol PC is $1,057.80. Pine Tree Waste is $250. Revision Solar is $3,215.85. Schwab Inc. is $12.50. Seacoast Business Machines is $21.71. TD Card Services is $2,533.80. Valak is $211.45. John Ventura is $42.97. WM Corporate Services, $3,187.73. WB Mason is $202.36. Trevor Whitby is $12 even.
Total $56,981.67.
We did have 15.5 hours overtime in the PD. The fire department copied them with the same, and 1 hour in the highway.
Make a motion for the minutes.
So we can do the consent agenda.
Still wrestling with this.
You are all set.
Perfect. Thank you.
After Russ is done,
That's why I was
Russ is
like,
done shuffling.
that's why I figured we just shoot it out there for the
Big
minutes.
stack, big stack.
Fine.
I'll leave it that way.
Thanks, Russ.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We'll let the chief go and.
Oh, okay, and then do the minutes.
Chief?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any rec checks?
Right here.
Yep.
Okay, all set?
All set.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You can do whatever you want.
All right.
Well,
All right, so-
within reason.
So, what I like to do, when necessary and when it merits it, we like to recognize officers once in a while. I've told the selectmen time and time again that they've chosen very well in the officers, and I was lucky enough to inherit when I got here. And what I'm here tonight is performance in the past that they've done that needs to be recognized. You know, they have a tough job, and right now in society, it's still not the greatest job that everybody wants to do, but they do it, and they do it without any complaint. They do a terrific job. So I don't want to get too much into the details of the exacts of what they did, but I'll give you sort of a couple of scenarios. But first, Officer Stolarri, would you come up, please? And Officer Worcester, would you come up, please? So these are the two officers that I'm recognizing tonight. Both did individually a terrific job in their respective nature. Both on a patrol function. I'll talk about Officer Worcester first. As it's no secret that in Rockingham County and everywhere pretty much in the United States we have a very big drug problem. Late one night I believe it was, he made a motor vehicle stop based on just the defective equipment. And because he's trained and he's really good at his job, he was actually able to talk to the operator and find out that there was something a little off about the operator and their story. But while maintaining a good rapport with that operator at the same time so that they talked to them. Got him out of the car, said, hey, you know, things aren't matching. Do you mind if we take a look at the car? Subsequently, the car was towed. A search warrant was done on that car. And Officer Worcester, with his performance that night, took 122 grams of heroin off the street and 10 grams of methamphetamines. Officer Spinellaro, very similarly, on duty one evening, late one evening, and just out of the corner of his eye while he's out on patrol and active when nobody else wants to be in the wee hours of the morning, he sees a little light out of the corner of his eye in the undercarriage of a car in a closed business. So he turns around, monitors, looks, and all of a sudden he sees somebody running off. And the game was on, okay? He called in back up smartly. We had several area agencies respond. There was actually a foot chase. A female was apprehended on site because of him and his work. A male was subsequently arrested several towns over after a long foot chase. What they were doing was they were stealing catalytic converters. Okay, now, I can tell you personally that I've worked with a task force that's formed that works all the way from New Jersey to the tip of Maine, just for catalytic converter thefts. And he stopped a ring dead in its tracks right there. There were 3 people that night that we identified in that ring and 2 felony arrests out of it. So he did an outstanding job in taking care of the businesses and the community in which he works in. So great job. So, Officer Worcester, Officer Spitaleri, in recognition of your superior performance in your duties while assigned as patrol for the Brentwood Police Department, you are hereby awarded the Meritorious Service Award, given under my hand on the 17th day of May 2022. Congratulations, John. Joe, thanks for
Thank
the
you.
time I had, folks, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice going, Chris. Good job.
Good work.
You want me to need to go?
Sure, no, you can, while you're here, you might as well.
Okay, get myself.
Minutes are waiting? No?
We're just gonna approve the consent agenda,
We gotta do that too.
so that'll include the minutes.
Okay.
So I'm here to talk about radios. We have a problem with our radios, and I think I had mentioned it at a previous meeting with you folks. All right, sit down now. The radios that we have in the cruisers they're not sufficient for what we need them for. I asked two-way communications, which is who we use for radio services and installations and so forth, to evaluate. Officer Spitaleri has been assigned cruiser maintenance and has done a terrific job about compiling a list of what we have for equipment, when it needs to be replaced, and the cost. He's gotten terrific quotes and everything that we've needed. I'll just read you a small excerpt of this letter, and I'll pass it around if anybody wants it, but it's kind of telling on where we are with some of our equipment. It says, Dear Chief Ventura, thank you for the opportunity to assist your department with capital improvement planning. Motorola recommends the replacement time frame for each subscriber should be 7 to 10 years. This is per radio. This is based upon technology enhancements and upgrade features. The current mobile radios you have in your cruisers have reached end of life and were no longer supported by Motorola back in 2019. If these radios should fail, they cannot be repaired. So we're kind of living on the edge with the radios we have. I can tell you from experience, even the radio I have in my car, it doesn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, if I want to communicate with somebody, I've got to have a portable with me in my own car, okay? And that's just for mine. The inline cruisers, these folks can't scan. Andy knows what I'm talking about, but the dispatch center, we have an east and a west station, okay? We're on west. Kingston's on east. And some other surrounding towns are on east. And really what helps the safety of the officers and the functions that they do is to monitor those other channels. We can't do that in our cars right now. So if a pursuit starts in Kingston and is coming to Brentwood, we generally will have no idea, unless Rockingham jumps on our, and they're generally very good about that. But they're probably not going to let us know until it's about midway through Kingston. But if it started at the tip of Kingston, we're ready to go. We might actually position ourselves at the border. So that type of a function is necessary. We can't do that with our radios, okay? The problem we've got is we need 5 radios replaced in the cruisers, okay? And they're about 3 apiece is what we described, 3 apiece. So rather than do all 5 at once and then put what would, will put myself in a position in 7 years where I have to do all 5 again, what I'm asking is that we replace 3 this year and we'll do 2 next year. And I've already talked to Karen, our town administrator, about the funds, and she can talk a little bit about that.
I take the money out of a special detail fund. There's plenty of money in that fund right now. just over 100,000.
Which is the one specifically for vehicles?
It's for vehicles
PD?
and cruiser maintenance.
Yeah.
So what's the total dollar we're looking for?
We're looking for up to $12,000 to replace those 3 radios. And if anybody would like the quotes to view them, I can email them to you if you would like. I have this is the list that Chris compiled, and we have 3 radios that are from 1997. We have one from
Wow.
98. Our newest radio is from 2005. So when I talked about, early stages when I got here, I talked about building things up. We've got to start somewhere, and we have a healthy detail fund right now. I'm not asking for a ton out of it, but we have to start somewhere. I've got to get this equipment on a replacement plan. We've never had that.
So is it 12,000 and what, or is it up to 12,000?
Up to 12,000 will cover the 3 radios.
I'll make a motion for up to 12,000 out of the detailed revolving fund.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, folks. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Motion for the consent agenda, and that would include the minutes.
Yes.
Yep. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
That includes non-public too.
Yes, it includes both sets of minutes, building permits, notes,
Right.
mail, rec checks, and treasury report.
Any prepared documents?
This is the Animal Population Control Program phase. So it is the release of those funds to the state for dog licenses.
Motion.
And that would be for,
$2,450.50.
Motion.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
That's our portion that goes to the state.
Yes.
Balances.
$2 for each license for one thing and 50 cents for each license for another. Motion second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And the only other item I have for public is,
The video is not working, I have a couple people.
Yes, I know.
Oh, you know.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, sorry.
the rec department is proposing to change and update the parade route. Thank you. To start at the highway shed and end at Swayze School, so it's about 1.5 miles. It would be just a straight stretch down 111A
And we're not doing that loop anymore?
instead of doing the loop. So it's about 1/2 mile longer than the previous route. It would allow for 2 positions for kids and walkers to join in if they didn't want to do the whole stretch. And Andy has spoken with police, fire, and highway, and they are all in support of this proposed route.
Are we concerned at all about parking?
They can park at
I
the
know there's
highway
some
shed
Pilgrim
or
Church.
use the Pilgrim Church for overflow.
And we think that's sufficient for,
But what about viewing? Because it used to be a big thing that people went
Lindy's
to
and
Lindy's and
everything
the library.
Now, I'm wondering if you start at the highway
Which I guess
shed,
they
you
still
still
can,
go,
you know.
if you start at the highway shed and go past it and then do the loop and come back to Swayze, if that would work. Just adding a little bit more.
It would add probably
that'd be longer.
The 1/2 mile more.
about that.
Really,
Because they're doing an event at the end, at the family social at Swayze, is that what their plan is?
that's what they're looking to do, is to end it at Swayze, and then Andy's trying to look into food trucks and to have some games and things, to have some family activities at the school.
I think the straight route looks good, just as long as we're confident we have enough parking up at the town shed and the church for people at the start, would be my only concern. And then I guess are the walkers and the bicycle folks gonna park on Block Drive? And are we just gonna have street parking? That's what I'm wondering. And on Bartlett,
I think they could probably park along these side streets here.
just on the side streets?
And then they can join in here.
I mean, PD, if PD was okay with it, they must have,
and I
considered the
think-
traffic implications, I would think, in the parking.
I think police-wise, it's easier because it's a straight shot, so they could post an officer on the
Yeah.
ends instead of needing to post an officer on each of these entry points.
Great.
So Andy was just looking for your approval to move forward with that so that he could file for the state permit for the parade route.
I think it sounds good.
Yes?
So
I don't like it, but
I would like it more if they were doing that loop, just because I know there's a ton of people that stand on Lindy's, and like you said, the library is just a huge, that whole corner is just usually loaded. But then again, if we change the route, they might load somewhere else, so it's fine.
Lois?
Can I address the board?
Yes,
Those things have all been addressed.
Lois,
Oh,
Lois, DeYoung.
Lois DeYoung, Foley Falls Road. Kind of okay?
Yes.
Yep.
And they've all been addressed. Yeah, I even have been speaking just yesterday with Lindy's. The people realize that, we're gonna working with them possibly for the social, so that part's worked out. And the real good thing about this is that loop, there is no access in or out. Once you're in it, you're in it. Whereas this route, we've got all kinds of places coming in and out. And it's basically a safer route and a straight shot. It really is. It really has been, and I've been working with Andy and the police and everybody, and we really got all the little quirks, if you will, that we had brought up at the meeting, and we've gotten each one of them addressed. So we will, I'd just like to give you confidence that.
Thank you.
So are they going in the furthest Swayze point?
Yeah,
So you're basically coming in and then you're facing the back of the parking lot, right? So does it loop around that way?
yeah. And
what it
they,
looks like, yeah.
when they can come in, he wanted to come in the front, Andy's talking, they want to turn around.
Go past Swayze School? And
No,
or are you going in the first entrance?
So the first entrance to go around.
Oh, okay.
And that, because there's gonna be plenty of parking now that we have, because
Okay.
at Swayze, at the, he spoke to Pilgrim Church, at the town shed, and the side roads, there'll really give us more, and more viewing, because they can view the whole length instead of just that little corner.
Have we checked with the school to see when they're ripping up the rear parking lot?
Yeah, they're working, he's already involved with the school too. And we met with everyone, we met with the church, we met with each of the road agent, police, and everybody. Everyone thinks that it was a very positive from each one.
And you're doing it on the day of the 4th, is that what
Yes.
you're doing?
Monday, it's a Monday it's the 4th of July weekend, it's that Monday. Which works for everybody, because then you can still have your weekend and come home and go to the parade, which is what we want.
And as far as like parking goes, the idea being that they're parking on the side roads,
Yeah.
essentially.
Or their driveways along the way, because a lot of homes along there, and there's 2 or 3 small cul-de-sacs they can park in those on each along. That gives you an awful lot more availability to get into the parade. And because those access roads can go out, you can get in, they go up to Prescott and come around on North Road, and they come down on Prescott and the other way around in the back and out. You're gonna have a lot more access entrances, 4 or 5, like 6 instead we have 1. And it's only 1 point, the original one was 1 mile. This is only 1.5 miles. So it is an increase a great deal.
All right, we usually leave it up to the rec to do this, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it as.
Can I just see if we have any other public comment
Sure.
Yeah,
first?
quick sec too, I just wanted to ask, what did you say about Lindy's? Are they gonna be part of the,
Yes.
okay, the food
Yes.
offerings? Okay.
That's because a lot of problems getting started. We haven't been able to find food, and that's why I changed it from the word picnic to the word social, so we can do something. And then I spoke with her yesterday, she's a fabulous woman, and she's gonna see what we can, as soon as we get a number for her, so we can work with. Because that she's gonna help, we're gonna try and get food and something to go, something, and Andy's working with games, so if we don't, we wanna have a little, that's the whole point of the whole thing, is to always stop and be in town, be together. So we are really working on it real hard. I say it's because it's been like 2 months when I started all this. Had so many approvals and so many things to get done. And first time for everything, of course, it takes a getting there. And 4th of July is a big day for vendors because everybody goes to picnic on 4th of July. So he's working on that real hard, and I say I'm working with her, and she's,
Linda?
Linda,
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah, she is.
At the light.
Yeah.
And yes, I went there and she said, listen, you name it, we'll do it. I said, we'll work together, so that's the current.
Thank you.
plan. My pleasure.
Is there any other public comment on this issue?
I'll make a motion as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Yep, second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Any other documents?
Now, can I have one more thing? Now that you've approved it, thank you very much. The goal is to get as many as we can to take part. And I would like to personally invite, not me, excuse me, that's wrong. The Brentwood Recreation Department would like to invite each of you to participate. We'd like this,
Thank you.
you and your families.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
John's not here. Give me that to him.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And I do know that Ken Christensen is riding in my Jeep.
Oh, okay,
He's
nice.
going in the front.
Where's Arlo gonna go?
Arlo will be in there with his goggles on. Goggles Paisan will be in the car.
I was supposed to replace Arlo, but he wins out anyway.
I told him to wear black so he can have white fur all over him. And he's all set.
We're also working really hard to get the businesses involved this year too. You know, we want to be able to have everybody, families, but businesses as well. So make a big presence.
And then you have first night out too is coming up in August, right? August 2nd?
Yeah.
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 So that's gonna be a big thing. I'm trying to, once you get me that thing, I'm gonna get it out to the Jeep clubs and
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
try to pimp out the event with a bunch of Jeeps.
All right.
We'll put you in the back like you feel.
Did Daphne have somebody show up?
Yes.
We'll go to COVID guidance.
This was a note I added for Jennifer.
Oh yeah, this is for me. So I think people know that several months back, the CDC changed the way that COVID data was being reported in the country. I think people are probably aware. So the maps that you used to see that were like all red significantly changed because they went from talking about transmission of COVID to what they call community level of COVID. The idea of that was to have sort of a more realistic look into how COVID was impacting communities, which takes into effect hospitalizations and bed utilization for hospitals more than it just does number of cases, which as the population is vaccinated is maybe less pertinent than how COVID is affecting the community. So when that change was made a number of months back, most of the country went to green. So they have green, yellow, red, which is a 3-tiered system. Just this past week, 3 counties in New Hampshire flipped to the red, highest risk COVID community level. Rockingham County is one. Grafton and Sullivan counties also flipped red. Most of New England tends to be in the higher risk, so a lot of Vermont is red, Maine, Massachusetts. So this is a change for us. It does reflect some change in our hospital utilization in this area. And according to the updated CDC guidelines from several months back, the recommendations when you hit a high level is for universal indoor masking and then all of the same other guidelines that they previously had, encouraging vaccination, social distancing, ventilation, all of the stuff that's not new to anybody. So given that we have had this flip, we don't know if it's going to persist, if it's going to blow over, if it's going to go into the summer. But my thought was we may want to consider going back to Zoom access to meetings, and that we may want to consider some public posting at town buildings that we are at a high level and that masking is recommended. Obviously, these are personal choices, right? If you look at the CDC guidance, they're recommendations. Everyone has their own ability to choose, but I think it's important for people to at least know what the recommendations are, and then obviously it's their choice on their own personal risk assessment, how they want to act. I obviously am going to be wearing a mask because my employer asks me to, and I follow CDC guidelines. I know not everybody does, and so I'm not recommending anything enforceable, mandates, et cetera, but I feel like at least notification of the community as to what our current level is would make sense. So either I can do that as one motion or 2 motions for the potential Zoom access and then potential posting at town buildings for notification of our community level.
So if I remember correctly, once the governor's emergency order expired, we could no longer do public access via Zoom.
And they haven't changed that, right?
I thought that was, when I talked to Karen about that, I thought that was more members.
Members
In
can,
terms
but the
of-
public cannot.
I think it would still
Well,
allow
that's-
members,
yeah,
but I
that's not
think,
what Karen
I
told
think
me.
the change in the Zoom access was because during the governor's order, the members could participate electronically, whereas before you have to have a physical quorum present.
I think we need to check on that.
Yeah, we can check on it.
Because once the governor's.
Because I had
order
run this by
expired,
Karen and
that's
she
when
thought
we
that it would be allowable.
nixed the public Zoom.
And just to clarify, when you say Zoom, you mean for attendees, the public attendees as an option?
Correct,
Okay.
right, to have participation through Zoom as opposed to just watching on YouTube live. If it's not currently allowed under current, regulations, that's fine. When I had spoke to Karen earlier this week, she thought that it was.
I think you can allow it. I think during the governor's order, you were required to allow public participation via Zoom, but I'll double check.
Okay. So we can follow up on that one.
Any clarification on that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But if you want to make one motion about,
Yeah, so that will turf for follow-up. So I'd like to make a motion that we post at all town offices just for awareness what our community level is and that there is a mask recommendation because I think just being transparent with the community is important and obviously people will do with that information as they choose.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Personal choice, I think, for everyone.
Right? Yeah, it is.
So, I know the information's out there, if people are willing to seek for it. I would wait for some guidance from, there's so much misinformation that comes out from media. CDC even has their own issues that they have. So for me, usually we look through the governor, and I know as the health officer, it's one of the things that we look through the governor's office to send out a notice that they're gonna have another meetings. We were meeting daily when I was, when this whole thing was in the
Sure.
throes of it. We haven't had any of those alerts or requests for any of that.
I
I
think-
know Exeter
I don't
Hospital
think
sent
you're
out
going
some
to.
stuff, and
Yeah.
that's great, but I just think the information's out there, if people are seeking it.
Is there any downside to posting it for awareness for people who might not be aware?
I think if you're gonna post it, I'm fine with it being posted probably at the library and posting it down at the information box that we have down here. I get a little concerned when I think there's enough mask fatigue and COVID fatigue.
Sure.
And I think there's enough stress level that's already been heightened for the last 2 years of the rhetoric that's been coming out from all the different entities over this whole situation. I can tell you, I'm a high risk for COVID. I got COVID, didn't even affect me.
Sure, N of one.
My wife, she's not a high risk, knocked her down for 3 weeks. So it affects different people different ways, so I don't have a problem doing awareness. But I also don't want it to be where we're the ones kind of pushing medical information.
I think, my impression is we're not pushing anything, we're reporting a CDC recommendation. We follow CDC recommendations all the time. When we had the pertussis outbreak in Exeter, we followed CDC recommendations.
Again, our job's
So
to
it's
manage the
notification.
town, is to
Yep.
manage the town business,
Yep,
not manage CDC or manage health stuff. That would come typically from the health officer. If a medical facility wants to put something out, I'm all for that. But I caution for us being managers of the business of running the town, dabbling in or tapping into an entity that we don't really necessarily have as our purview of our career at this juncture.
I think she's talking more recommending mask usage by people into the town hall, which would affect our employees. So do you want to
and I spoke to Karen about that in terms of.
weigh in on this?
Well, and I did ask everyone, all of the town office employees, what their preference was, if they were leaning towards, what their comfort level was with implementing those requirements, and everyone that I asked would like to make that choice for themselves.
Right. Which, just to be clear, is what I'm recommending.
Right.
I'm not recommending any sort of requirement, just pure notification of what the current nationwide guidelines are. So to me, that's not contentious, that's not, I don't see why that would add to anybody's stress, because it's just information, you do with it as you choose.
I think it's a slippery slope because that's how it started before, and then all of a sudden it became mandates and requirements, and then you had everyone making it kind of a political agenda.
That's not what we're talking about here, though.
But that's where I see it going.
How so? I mean, Governor Sununu has been very clear that his philosophy for the state is personal choice and personal risk assessment. So I don't see New Hampshire going that direction.
I don't see New Hampshire going that direction, but I do see, you mentioned CDC, you haven't mentioned what's coming out of the governor's office. I would like to see what the governor's office wants to recommend before we go ahead and say, hey, let's go with CDC, because CDC hasn't been consistent. Neither has the governor's office. So there's a mixed message in there, and before I say, hey, let's jump into the pool because the pool is warm, I'm gonna caution whether or not we jump in at all.
I guess I was just asking what we're jumping into, I don't.
By posting and putting out medical, recommendations and stuff like that, CDC recommendations. I'm not in support of the CDC recommendations at this point, just because I don't think it's at the same height level or the same concern that we had before. I just don't see it.
Well, okay.
As a health officer and from the.
So we have a motion and a second.
Report, so.
I don't see how information is harmful, for people. I
Depends
mean,
on whether
this is
it's
a
our
public
purview.
building where public meetings take place.
Right, we have a motion and a second, I'm gonna take a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Against.
3-1.
Thank you.
And the guidance.
And then if we can put that on the agenda to review at every meeting of what the,
It's updated once a week on Thursdays by CDC. And I can work with Karen on just posting something basic. And then Karen, you'll let us know the regulations.
Yep,
on the
so
other issue.
there is no prohibition in the statute on allowing public access to the meeting by other than physical attendance, so long as physical attendance is permitted. So you can allow the public to participate remotely as long as.
So it can't be exclusive.
It can't be exclusively remote.
Right.
So it's just another means for them to participate. If you allow it, you have to allow both parties to participate equally.
Yep. Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to allow Zoom participation again while we stay at high levels of community COVID.
I'll second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
So that's gonna, I'm gonna vote against.
Okay.
So that's gonna be deadlocked, we can, when John's here, we can take another vote.
Okay.
Um,
What's your thoughts on why?
We just had a lot of problem with Zoom and the text and it just got confusing and it was just,
Just technology
It-
concerns?
it wasn't more technology, it was just trying to administer that, run a meeting. It was,
A lot of banter that was in there.
So-
The comment, and then the other problem that you can run into is.
well,
there
we
was
shut the
dialogue
comments
going
off.
Between people back and forth for a while, and we had to shut the comments and everything else.
But-
It was problematic.
Seems like wouldn't that be manageable by having a designated public comment section that has to be spoken only?
Yeah, by shutting comments off.
Sure.
But, and then you have the other problem is, I was on a DBA meeting that got Zoom bombed and we had pornography up on the screen, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, all that, so.
Okay, so we'll follow up when John's back.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Daphne,
Yes?
would you like to come visit? Come on down.
We've got two people here
Oh, we have two people to,
for the non-public.
That's
All
not
right.
public, all right.
so is everything for Daphne?
How are you?
non-public?
Can I have a purse?
Oh, it's all
No,
non-public?
I like to move back, so
Okay.
my
I'm good,
colleague,
I'm good.
my colleague
Um,
here as well.
So everything we have for Daphne right now is non-public, so,
Um, the Tax thing too?
Yeah,
Okay.
Unless they choose for that business to be public, that's up to them.
the negotiations of,
Should we leave that up to the community members, if they want public or non-public?
well, it's not the community members, it's the individual people. So,
That's what I mean, the homeowners.
did you wanna grab the 2 people and see what their preference is outside?
Certainly.
It's their choice,
Do
public
that.
or non-public.
And then while we do that, we'll wrap up the public session. Do you have anything? Did you like to discuss?
ZBA,
It's non-public.
had a,
It's not.
Okay.
They want
That's
non-
easy.
ZBA, I actually missed the library trustees, last library trustees meeting, I was,
Public?
full disclosure. Coaching baseball and, running into scheduling issues, but, ZBA had a training session last week, about 2.5 hour training session, so, that's about it on my end.
Bob?
Good right now?
I was wondering if there was any follow-up on this solar question that had come up at our last meeting, when we were talking about the school, and there was a question about the allowance and whether that had changed. Karen, do you know if there's been any, remember we were talking about the solar and the option of trying to move the school onto some kind of solar, and there was a question about the
Yes.
allowance of our current system and whether the regulations had changed?
Yes, I need to research that.
Okay, so that's sort of TBD. Okay, thanks.
Was there anything from the library trustees meeting that was of importance?
Well, I was there, if that means anything. I can't think of it.
Liz is here too, so
Liz.
she's the chair.
Liz, yeah.
You should talk in the library, not me. It's okay.
No, nothing in particular. We're still looking at the documents for the location of the septic system, for the possible reconstruction of the amphitheater, as well as whether or not the ramp meets guidelines for ADA requirements as well, and we haven't come to that. I think I've spoken with Kip a couple times, and he has the new, not new, but he has found the septic plan so that we can see if the septic is in a position to be accepted as to code as well. Those were the 2 issues that we had, and we still haven't solved that. And also, I did want to mention that, thank you for talking about the notice for recommending masks, because we're going to do that at the library as well.
Just a notification.
Yes, just on the door.
Any other public comment on any other issues? Please raise your hand. Yes, Mrs. F.
Liz Faria, South Road. I'm a little dismayed, oh, actually very dismayed by the direction that this board is taking at times. After ignoring the will of the majority of the voters to reinstate the Brentwood newsletter, it first appeared that this board acted as they knew what was better than the townspeople, with making that sort of long, drawn-out newsletter. Maybe we'll be Monday, maybe we won't, maybe we'll have some more meetings. So it seemed like that the select board was choosing instead of the townspeople. Also was speaking a lot about transparency and communication. This board has done the opposite. It sanctioned a communication committee that was originally created with only part of the town knowing about it. The board has also instituted the consent agenda, where the board can approve things outside of the posted meetings. So the mail, building permits, treasurer's report are no longer discussed during the public meetings. There are also items discussed in non-public which should not necessarily be non-public. I personally think that the mail received and building permits and things like that should be discussed during the public meeting. I don't know if you've changed on the minutes. I don't know if the minutes are the consent agenda.
Minutes or
But
consent agenda, yeah?
Now they're the consent agenda too, so you don't even get the minutes. So if you come to a meeting, and now this is Zoom, maybe we'll do Zoom and we won't have anybody even be in the building anymore. I know that that didn't pass tonight, but I think it's completely disingenuous for this board to say that you want more communication when you are kind of doing things that are clearly less communicative and less transparent. And finally, I would like to specifically ask Jen if the communication committee was started in part to try to take over the newsletter to more accurately reflect your point of view.
So she did address that last meeting, that she said, no, the Communication Commission had nothing to do with the newsletter. But if you'd like her to say that again, I'll let her say that again.
So, as I've stated multiple times, I don't think the newsletter should have any point of view. I think it should just be information sharing with the town. Certainly not my point of view or anybody else's point of view. And the Communications Committee had been brought up a year prior to the prior board, mostly to do things like try to get a joint calendar, joint information sharing. I had a parent say to me at the Swayze Color Run today, geez, I wish we had been able to coordinate better so that the soccer tryouts were not at the same time as the color run, and I wish we had a joint calendar. It's all just meant to be about information sharing, working on social media so that when Daphne posts, for example, election results and election information, it's coming from the town and not on privately run Facebook groups, to potentially work on the fine tuning and improving our website over time. None of that really has anything to do with the newsletter, which has been funded. And so no, it is not, there is no agenda here. When I was running, I talked about the fact that people were asking me what the warrant articles meant, and if we passed the zoning amendments, what would that really look like? And that they would go to the town website and they couldn't find that information to help them decide how to vote in the town elections. That's where this came from, was to improve transparency. And Stephanie Lewandon, whose idea it was, knew that I was interested in communication, spoke to me about it, I supported it, so I brought it to the board for.
Do you see how, I don't wanna have the back and forth, but do you see how that
I know
a lot
that
of
some
these
people
things,
are
the
worried about
consent
that.
agenda, and not having meetings that are open to the public, or deciding things when you're not here, do you see how that looks less transparent?
So, to back up on that, nothing's
Okay.
not open to the public.
Okay,
And then the consent agenda is the minutes, which all we did is say yay or nay to. The building permits, which are listed in the minutes to begin again,
The treasury report. which
and the
is in
treasury
minutes.
report, which is listed in the minutes.
and the
So-
mail,
And we've never done the mail in public.
okay.
It
Forum.
was just, it was purely a business administrative thing as recommended by the Municipal Association of New Hampshire to speed up the efficiency of meetings.
And the one final thing, this is kind of related, that the school stuff is a separate thing. So for you to be advocating, I'm not saying it's good or bad, for the school to do solar, that's up to the school.
Correct.
And
I'm
for
the,
the, for
I'm
you saying
the-
the color run, and that's also up to the school.
I'm-
That's
correct.
the selectmen.
Correct. I am the select board representative to the school board. And so when we go around, we report on other boards that we are either visitor members or voting members of. And so that was a follow-up question that the school board had brought forward that would need to go to the select board because the solar is under the town. So I am not doing school business here, nor would it be my place because I'm not on that board. It was a follow-up item that the school brought to the town.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Anything else?
I just wanted to share that listening
Melissa.
to
Do it by yourself.
the fact that we're gonna,
Can you identify yourself?
oh, I'm sorry, Melissa Litchfield, Eleanor's Way, Brentwood, New Hampshire. I'm just incredibly disappointed as far as the discussions are about the mask recommendations and the posting throughout the town. I'm concerned that we're taking a step backwards versus a step forward. It's been 2 years. We completely disregarded what the town health officer has stated. It is my understanding, and maybe this is incorrect information, but I just heard this week when I was at the State House, that the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services is now treating COVID as though it would influenza at this point. When I just looked up on the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services website, I saw that there were 31 hospitalizations in the state, and I can't remember if it's 1.3 or 1.4 million people we have in the state, but 31 out of, I didn't even bother to do it on the calculator, because I don't even know if my calculator would go down that low with the decimal points, to be quite honest with you. When we're putting stuff up around town, then someone is gonna have to stay on top of managing that. But I just, in my opinion, we're creating more fear, and that's not the purview of this board.
I'd be happy to speak to that, Melissa. As a healthcare worker in this community, I take part in a monthly webinar with Ben Chan, who's the chief epidemiologist at DHHS, who takes part in making a lot of these decisions. And we actually just had a meeting last week. They used to be twice a month, they're now once a month. And he's actually specifically spoke about the idea of COVID and influenza. And so from Ben Chan, we do anticipate that COVID is going to become more like influenza in terms of the more chronic nature, potentially the need to chronically vaccinate every fall season, et cetera. And he spoke to that at our last meeting. He also spoke to the fact that the mortality rate for people who are hospitalized for COVID is 3 times the mortality rate that of influenza. So they are not identical viruses. They are still different entities, and that is a medical fact. In terms of are we moving back or forth, that's up to the virus and the variants. The hospitalization numbers that you reference are difficult to compare to the prior numbers because they've changed their metrics. So a couple of months ago, Ben Chan, DHHS, announced that a change in the way that New Hampshire reports hospitalization metrics to standardize with the way that some other states report them. So previously, anybody with COVID in the hospital was reported. And if you go to the New Hampshire Hospital Society, that's what they report. So their current number is around 130. The state website only reports people who've been treated with remdesivir or dexamethasone. So people admitted for COVID with enough respiratory illness that they needed specific medications for COVID. So those are 2 different data points that mean different things. And I'm happy to explain it if anybody has any other questions. None of this is about fear. It's just about information. It's not. I don't know why you're looking at me like that. Why would I want someone to be afraid? I don't, what benefit would that be to anyone? I just want people to have the information and make decisions as they see fit. I don't see how information can be wrong, right? If it is CDC recommendations, people choose to do as they will. These are not mandates, these are not requirements. This is information sharing. I personally think that that is transparency, and everyone is going to make their own decisions. That's not up to me, but I think it's important for people to have accurate information.
Clarity for numbers, since you just gave 130 and she's...
Last time I looked, it was.
Great, so that's awesome. She said 1.4 to 1.5 million, so I took 1.4. Just so everyone's clear on that, since we are recording, that's 0.00009286%.
I'm not going to challenge you on
So I
that.
look at that and I go, that's like me, I got a better chance of getting stung by a bee at this point.
That's, I think
than going to the
just,
hospital for COVID. So that's my own.
I know, I hear what you're
personal
saying, I get it. You can make the numbers sound however you'd like, right?
All right,
We don't have enough hospital beds for everyone. This is about hospital utilization, not about the
130
entire
people in the
community.
entire state.
Correct.
That's your
Okay.
number, not 30.
These are just data points.
okay, good.
Yep. I'm a numbers guy.
Any other public comment? Otherwise, we're going into non-public to, yes, Becky.
Just a question, Becky Dunham, Brentwood, Off Drive. I believe at one of the last meetings, I volunteered to be on the communications committee. I don't know what's going to happen from this point. Will there be someone in charge? Will there be communication with the 7 of us? What is going to happen with that?
I believe we were waiting, if, Karen, correct me if I was wrong, to announce the first meeting in the next issue of the newsletter. And then we were gonna go from there, correct?
Yes, so we were trying to look and book it for like the week of the 13th or the 20th because
Of,
the newsletter doesn't get out until the
First
7th,
week,
right?
yeah.
So in the article, I posted that it would be, that was the week that we were planning to do it and that it would be posted on the homepage of the website so that we'd have time to get everybody together with meeting
So will the
dates.
7 of us who have technically volunteered be contacted directly?
Yes.
Okay.
all right, with that, I'm gonna take a motion to go in non-public.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye, Jen.
Aye.
Aye.
Bob,
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Bob, and
Jen
Jen
seconded
was
it.
the second.
You want-
Camera's on. It's just not live streaming.
Not functioning.
Yeah, yes.
So it's recording, but just not transmitting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Karen, oh, where'd Karen go?
Oh, okay, perfect.
That's the
10:40.
second week of June?
I know it's such a random time.
9:40?
10:40.
9:40 for what?
That's the time Joe Tech wants to have coffee.